I am so excited for today's conversation with Steve Brown. Welcome to the show, Steve. Another stranger on the show. We just met literally 5 minutes ago, so I'm excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, Steve.
Yeah, Cindy, thanks for having me. So, I'm just a Texas boy. I've got an agency and we work with our entrepreneurs and we help them get their act together online.
Mhm.
And when everyone knows that when you kind of get going in business, you have to have a not just a physical place to do business, but you have a digital place that you need to do business. But it's confusing, it's frustrating. You don't know where to start. So a lot of folks come to us, and what we do is walk them through a nice process. We create a plan, then we hold their hand and we help them get it done, and we set them up for success. And so I'm an author. I have a
Mhm.
podcast as well. So just excited to be here, Cindy. You're beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Tell us a little bit about the book because your book has a very interesting title.
Yeah, so my book's called The Golden Toilet. Stop flushing your marketing budget into your website and build a system that grows your business.
I love that. I love that. And it was funny because I've always told people, I've helped people with building their online businesses in a sense. And I've always said, you don't even really need a website to create income online. And so I
Mhm.
love that you bring that up is that stop flushing your money into a website
Yeah,
unless you have that strategy in place.
right. No, a lot
Yeah.
of people waste a lot of money and they don't know where to start. They're all being programmed. You have to have SEO and you need to do this and you need to do that. But how nice would it be if you just knew what the fundamentals were? And you're right.
Mhm.
Some people may not need a website.
Yeah.
So, what if Google's not around in 4 years?
That's hard to imagine, but it's possible.
Everything's on the table, and
Right.
if anything we've learned this year, nothing's off the table. Who would have
That's right.
thought? One day, so it's just, hey, you can't go out and hang out with people like you
Yeah.
used to, right?
You can't even go outside. You gotta just
No.
stay home, right?
Yes, it's scary out there.
Yeah, right. So, the conversation here at Rebel Radio is around wealth activation, self mastery, and really landing into who we are and how we show up in the world. And as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, I feel like that's really important. But in that self mastery as an entrepreneur, tell us a little bit about your own journey of self mastery.
Self mastery. There's a lot of, I think, where self mastery comes from is learning lessons, past failures and missteps, and getting in the ditch and getting yourself out of the ditch. And over time, when you stop blaming it on everyone else and you start to really self audit and see where what you owned in the situation, I think that's like the number one step towards self mastery. At least for me, that's
Hmm.
what it was. And it's like, if you're so smart, then why don't you step out and do it on your own? Well, that's scary. So I think that kind of figuring out what you're good at
Hmm.
and starting to figure out where you can bring your own unique perspectives and value is like where you can be most effective. But how do you find what's your unique perspective and your best value? You have to really do a lot of reps. You have to go through a lot of experiences until that starts to reveal itself if you're paying attention and trying to see what that is, right?
Right. I love that you say that if you're paying attention, because oftentimes we just go through life that's completely oblivious and wonder why things are happening the way they're happening. And as
Yeah.
soon as we bring awareness to it, we're like, oh, I see why.
Oh, now I see. Yeah.
I get it. Time to take responsibility for that one, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So, in your work, who are you most motivated to serve? Obviously, entrepreneurs, but does it get more specific than that?
Well, it's like, so I believe that the invisible heroes of our time, of our economy, are entrepreneurs, those
Yes. Oh my
small
gosh.
business owners. Think about it. Did you know that 98% of the businesses in the US have 20 employees or less?
Wow.
And we think all businesses are like these big concerns with all these hundreds of employees, but it's not true.
Yeah.
98% of the businesses out there have 20 employees or less. So what does that mean? That means that people like you and me were crazy enough to start a business, risk our whole future on no guarantee, right? Our family's future as
Mhm.
well. And yet, what do we accidentally do? We accidentally create jobs for people who have dreams and families,
Yeah.
and we create these products and services that improve our world. And so, these are the people that I want to serve. The
Mhm.
other people are the folks that are a part of the ROI team, right? I want to make sure that they're growing and developing as well. So it's
Mhm.
kind of a symbiotic way to take control what we can and improve the things that we can control.
Ugh, I love that so much. I feel like entrepreneurs, I mean, they have been part of our growth in the world, but they're the wave of the future.
Yeah. It they risk so much and it's like they're stupid enough to think they can do it and they do it, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just like, well, I have this desire and I want to do this thing. What's going to stop me? The only
Yeah.
thing that's going to stop me is myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not for the faint of heart. You have to lean into it, and again, I'm in my book. I talk about the gauntlet, and
Mhm.
and how an entrepreneur feels like that show Wipeout. You see that show Wipeout, right? Where they're making fun of them and they're wearing these goofy suits and they're all covered with slimy mud because they got knocked in the water. That's
Mhm.
an entrepreneur on every single day. You turn around and you get punched in the crotch and yeah, and you still go and it looks ugly. It looks ugly, but at over time you look back, and go, oh my gosh, look what we've accomplished.
Oh, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. So this term of self-mastery, and you kind of spoke to this already, but it's like the definition of success. Everybody has a different definition for it. So what does self-mastery mean to you? How would you define it?
Self mastery to me means that I can control what I get to invest my focus and time on. And
Mm,
so when it is something that is fulfilling to me, then that's rewarding and that gives me energy, right?
mhm,
And so when we can start to do the things that make a difference to us and can be fulfilling, then I believe that's a form of self-mastery. So we start off in the world and we just like, I need a job, I got to pay some bills,
right.
right? But over time, assuming that we're on a journey of self development, we're able to start controlling where we get to invest our time.
Mhm.
And that means that you're starting to get to drive in some way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, to me, fulfillment and happiness are two different things. Happiness comes in waves and can
Mhm.
leave at any moment on some
Mm.
unexpected thing. But fulfillment comes from overcoming challenges and getting some wins. That's fulfilling to me. And I think that is for me, being able to lean or go the direction is a form of self-mastery.
Ugh, and I just love that definition between the difference of happiness and fulfillment. Because
Mm,
happiness can, you're right, it's fleeting. It can, sometimes, some days we have a great day and we're really happy, but then the next day maybe there's something going on and we're
mm,
not happy. But
mhm.
in all of that, you can have fulfillment, whether you're happy or not. So I love that definition. That's so
Yeah.
good. That's so good. So, another topic we're really passionate about here at Rebel Radio is wealth. Wealth is another word that has a very vague definition, for lack of a better term. So, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth, I believe, is so for me, I look at money differently. Money is like a way to do certain things that you want to do, right?
Mhm.
But I think also wealth is your health is a form of wealth. Healthy relationships are another form of wealth. These are all things that are you always have to strive to grow or improve along with your bank account. But part of being an entrepreneur is like I want to have something to show for all this investment of my time.
Mhm.
And it may be, you may have to drive the same car for 10 years until you get to that point. But as long as you're making progress and you're focusing on healthy relationships and health as well, I for me, I think that's a form of wealth that you can be sleep well with, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I find that especially in the online space, we see these bright, shiny entrepreneurs that are putting forth this beautiful facade of what life is like and the fancy mansions and the nice
Mm,
cars.
mm,
That's simply not true for
mm,
90% of us. And some of us are driving some old beat up cars, and so
mhm.
what? But I look at wealth as this feeling state. And I wake up every morning and I go, I feel wealthy today.
Yeah,
And even when my bank account does reflect that now, but if it didn't before in the past, I could see the wealth around me anyways, in my family and the time that I spend doing the things I love and the people that I get to collaborate with. And it's that feeling rather than money is just a side effect of wealth, I feel like.
I agree. I mean, there's so many stories out there where someone was like on their last moment of money
Mhm.
before they finally made it through.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think that we can experience those, but we could like at that moment really grade ourselves as like, well, I'm a loser,
Mhm.
but you're still in the fight. You're not a
Yeah.
loser, right?
Right? It brings to mind that story of the 3 feet from gold and the guy who sold his gold mine 3 feet before he hit gold. It's like, don't give up. Keep going. Even if you are living PayPal to PayPal and struggling and your car's about to die, don't give up. You
No.
are 3 feet from gold.
Yes, it's so true. It's so, but you have those days where you're like, I want to give up. No,
No,
no. But it's
no.
okay. That's normal.
Yeah, it's okay to feel like you wanna give up, just don't
Yeah.
give up.
No, don't.
I love that. So, in your travels and journeys of self-mastery and discovering who you are, I love these one thing questions. It gets everybody. What is one truth you wish every entrepreneur knew?
There is no silver bullet.
Ooh, that's a mic drop.
Mhm.
I love that.
We inherently look for that one thing that's going to resolve it all, but it's not true. And it's a concept in my book. There, you have to get your fundamentals in place, and it takes time.
Mhm.
But there's no silver bullet, and I think when you realize that bottom line, it's you, but you have to recognize what fundamentals are appropriate for you and work on those. But there's no silver bullet.
Yeah, there's no magic secret sauce that's just
Mm-mm.
gonna be like, "Here, plunk this into place and it'll
N-
all be okay." That's not how it
No,
works.
no.
It's meant to be a journey of discovery,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All those movies we love to watch, and we see the hero go through this process and they feel like a loser and they have all these struggles and they come to the moment where they're just hanging on by a string, right? And that's normal and that's our stories in
Mm,
so many ways and it's okay, but there's no silver bullet.
yeah. Oh, I love that. So what is one thing that you've learned about yourself on your journey as being an entrepreneur and growing your business?
One thing is I've really learned how persistent I am.
Mm,
So my hero is his name is Ernest Shackleton. He was an explorer in right after when World War I started, and was explored the South Pole. Anyway, he went on this journey with his crew, and their ship got frozen in, and the ice crushed their ship.
mm,
And he had this whole crew, and they had to get out on the ice and live on the ice for a while until the ice melted. And then long story short, they all made it out alive. Not one man died. But his whole thing was like, we endure is how we win. And I found that that's what I do. I'm like the old school Iron Man, the Ozzy Osbourne Iron Man. I just power through.
mhm. Love that. I love that. And persistence is It's key for a lot of things. I think that persistence towards the things that light you up, and perhaps not persistence towards the things that are torturing you,
Yeah.
making things harder, right? I know I used to be persistent toward, like, I would get attached to an outcome, and then I would be persistent toward achieving that outcome, and it would get harder and harder and harder. And I'm like, what am I doing? Instead of focusing on the persistence to the things, the breadcrumbs and the things that light you up, and just going after those. And then every day it's like, ooh, I wonder what's next. I wonder what's next.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, it's always a little I'm not sure when I need to let something go, right? Because there's
mhm,
you waver, am I giving up or is it time?
mhm.
And we're never super confident on that, and that's why that tension is always there, and that anxiety.
Yeah, yeah, so good. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. If you could share one thing with our audience about current events, what would it
Mhm.
be?
Current events. I think that what the current events and situation has revealed is that we can adapt and excel. So, for example, we found ourselves not being able to hang out together and have the social connections that we were normally used to, and that's traumatic when you can't. But if we've taken advantage of whatever the technology that exists today and found a way to create and develop fulfilling relationships, even though a lot of them are remote, then that's a win and it's okay. And it's not going to always be this way. But for us to grow and see ourselves in a different situation that we wouldn't have wanted or imagined, it's good. We get to see a side of us that still can be successful and develop regardless.
I love that. We're so resilient as human beings, and we forget that sometimes. We just get
Yeah.
trucking along, and then something like COVID-19 comes along, and we're like, oh shit.
Hmm.
But we're resilient. We got Zoom, we've got technology, we've got all these things, and we've made it through. Well,
Yeah.
it's not over yet, but we've made it through.
We've made it through. Let's just claim that.
Right? We have made it through. We're
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Steve. As always, these conversations light me up.
Hmm.
Um, as always, I ask one last question.
Okay.
What do you dream of for the world?
I dream for the world that we wake up from this dream and that we're more aligned and more together than we think. Do care about each other way more than we're told. We do want to help others win. We do want to put ourselves second. We do.
Oh,
We see it all the time, but we're not told that all the time. So I want us to wake up from this bad dream.
oh, so good. Thank you for sharing your dream with the world.
Yeah, yeah.
It's beautiful. Thanks,
I,
Steve, for being on the show.
I love being here, Cindy. Thank you.